And they also created 30 square mile around Oltukai for livestock. And remember again, around Oltukai, around Serena, is where they had the graveyards of their ancestors, where most of their leaders are buried. That's why when they were moved out, then they were not happy. And that's why they could continue killing wildlife. But again, with this presidential idea and this dream, the wildlife will be safe as we move further. So it is very important to understand that from that context and go now as to why, There are a number of issues that we need to look at here. Why Amboseli? Why now? Number one is the increase of human-wildlife conflicts. And this has really not gone well with international bodies and organizations and global organizations that are mandated, like UNESCO. So Kenya was to lose its World Heritage status because Amboseli is a man and biosphere reserve. And for them to lose that because of human-wildlife conflict. And number two, because the Maasais were not informed to give a free, prior informed consent, which the Maasais now will sign this time. They have done that. When you look at that picture, the three governors of Samburu, Narok, and Kajiado have consented. And that picture demonstrates that. The Maasais don't write. They not go to school. But when they raise their black sticks, right? I think we have one here. Then it demonstrates that we have given a consent. And I think I'll need to pick the stick just to put it here to show that. It's very important. That's how the Maasais will give consent, which is called Esieria Narok. This is where the power is. Any decisions passed by Maasais are demonstrated by the men who will be carrying this. These are the leaders of the Maasai. It is the power of the stick. I call it one of the elements of change. It's called the power of the stick. And as we transfer Amboseli, let them do it in their own traditional and cultural way. The other reason why they did that was because of free, prior, informed consent. It was not issued. So Amboseli still remains a reserve. Even within the UNESCO, it still remains a reserve because it's a man and biosphere reserve. Two, why is it ended? The question of capacity comes in. Do the Maasais have capacity? This has been a very big question with conservationists and conservation organizations like Nature Kenya. Do they have the capacity? It could be yes or no. I say it has the capacity based on the organizations on the ground that have put a lot of initiatives and programs in the communities. There are about 12 organizations. There's Big Wildlife, there's I4, there's Big Wildlife, I4, there's Amboseli Ecosystem Trust. I want to talk about that one because it's the one that brings all organizations operating in Amboseli. Do they have the capacity? Yes. They have developed a strategic plan of 2023-2030, developed courtesy of Amboseli Ecosystem Trust. Again, do they have the capacity? Yes. From the research perspective, Dr. Weston Leakey has been studying the ecology of that area since 1967. Cynthia Morse, an elephant researcher, has been studying elephants for many, many years with quite a very wonderful team. Very wonderful team. There's a lady who takes care of male elephants and another lady taking care of female elephants study. What about the initiatives that have been put there and efforts by Kenya Wildlife Service? Kenya Wildlife Service has put Amboseli in a very good status that when it's transferred, it's in a very, very good status. Do we have the capacity in terms of human-wildlife conflict? Yes. The KWS does not go anywhere. They have a mandate within the Wildlife Act to be able to take care of the issues of human-wildlife conflicts. Compensation also comes in, and the government has put a lot of money. It has improved on compensation, and also the weakness that we had with compensation. We never used to have very good documentation and processes. Now that has been looked by a technical committee, and now compensation will be done in that regard. What about Ma Museum? Ma Museum is the new baby that has been in Kajiado West among the Kenyokie and Lodokilani communities. It's now in Amboseli. It brings in its expertise and focus on research and education. And also, it brings in the UNWTO, the best tourism villages initiative of United Nations, when it got the first award in 2021 for the first edition of the best tourism villages UN initiative. And similarly, in May, the government, the state, the Kenya state, submitted Nkongo Narok village as the next village to be submitted to the United Nations. And the title of that was The Jewel of Conservation and the City of Elephants in Africa. So Ma Museum and Center for Indigenous Cultures come in to complement other researchers on the ground. One is Dr. Weston, who has been carrying ecological research of Amboseli since 1967. Cynthia Moss, who has been carrying research on elephants. So Ma Museum will come in to bring in its expertise and experience in research, including a study that they were able to carry on the colonial legacies and how it haunts Amboseli in terms of the habitat, in terms of coexistence, in terms of the wildlife, and of course, the issues of human-wildlife conflicts. And when I talk about the human-wildlife conflict, it is also very emotional for the Maasais. Why is it emotional, and why do we take it that way and understand? It's because it is 50 years since Amboseli was illegally taken, but it has been taken care of by the national governments. So I just came from the scientific reasons why, again, it was being researched, because science has proved that it's very important that the Maasais get part and parcel of conservation in many ways, in terms of giving their lands. Currently, as we speak, they have already given quite a big chunk of lands, over 1 million acres, as conservancies. And we have 55 conservancies within Amboseli and Savo ecosystem. We have also 15 conservancies coming up in Mailua Matapato. And we have also other 3 conservancies on their way in Magadi. And all these are southern conservation area. So we have 2 conservancies being supported by Ma Museum, seeking funds, which are also within the global important agricultural heritage sites. And that is Olkeri and Oldonyonyokie in Magadi, of course, including Oloitiptip Sanctuary Land, over 11,200 acres. That is also a wetland and a Ramsar site. So we are looking forward to apply for a Ramsar site. Why transfer? It's a transboundary issues. Again, here we are looking at regional. Amboseli and Savo all connect to northern part of Tanzania, who are also the Maasais. So in terms of transboundary, the biggest challenge is bush meat hunting, which is allowed in Tanzania. And Kenya, through UNESCO, has now to engage with the country, with Mama Samia, our beloved mother, so that she can listen to our voice and see whether also they could ban that hunting. It's also a global issue. Best that UNESCO is there. It's a man and biosphere reserve. It is a global region of significance, and quite a very, very interesting part in the national reserve in that case. So it's very important that we also do that. It's also a safety, health, and security matter. That's why KWS are there to give their technical support and technical areas of their expertise in terms of health of the tourists, in terms of the safety. The county government of Kajiado too has trained are rangers. Now over 700 rangers being trained by KWS, of course with the support of organizations, development organizations, and conservation organizations like IFO, Big Wildlife. There are many. Amboseli Ecosystem Trust that coordinates all the organizations in the operations and management of the park. And I think they also bring in the issues of governance and the issues of management, because there are still some gray areas and trust from Kenyans, whether they trust the Olkejiado County Council, but we say not Kajiado County Council, but Olkejiado County Government. The county government has the capacity, based that the partners on the ground are there, strategic plans are there, already developed, and we have one that goes all the way to 2030. It's also a devolution issue. When you look at it in a devolved system, then it tells you, yes, this is the right time to transfer Amboseli National Reserve to Olkejiado County Government, with the structures that are on the ground, the institutions that are there, the research. And when you go to Amboseli Ecosystem Trust, you get research and studies done by Western from 1967, ecological studies that are very useful to run this particular conservancy. So I will say it is a capacity issue. The capacity is there. It is also a Nairobi National Park issue and matter. Why? The Maasais have given to the government the Nairobi National Park. Today, that's the only park that is inside a city. They have also donated Serengeti to Tanzania. They have also now given back, that one is forceful. It has contention issues for Ngorongoro, which is also a geopark. So Ngorongoro now, Maasais are being moved, and we want to ask the government of Tanzania that to do this better, let the Maasais have a free, prior, informed consent. Even the Maasais of Amboseli, we already have a draft of the free, prior, informed consent, which will be written. Of course, for them, they don't write, but it will turn the unwritten free, prior, informed consent into a paper. But they will still have to do it their traditional way, and this will happen again in Serena or in Kongo Narok village, where they will also, where last time they gave their Thanksgiving. Benefits sharing, yes, I think the president was very clear in terms of 50-50, but I will say for the 50 years that the Maasais have been out of this park, I recommend as a scientist and a researcher that the government considers 70-30 benefit sharing for the Maasais. So that is basically why Amboseli is being reported. The main reason and rationale is because of protection of the biosphere, protection of the habitat, to enhance human-wildlife coexistence. And that's why the Maasais have put their land into corridors and spatial areas for wildlife. For the first time in history, in May this year, we have sighted the highest number of lions in Amboseli National Park. But then again, there are areas for improvement and areas to work on, and those ones include ecotourism and cultural tourism there. And there we will work basically with Kenya Tourism Fund and Ecotourism Kenya to bring in more development in terms of ecotourism. And this will enhance tourism as a driver and tool of sustainable development in Kenya. My thanks to Amboseli Ecosystem Trust. My thanks, great thanks to Kenya Tourism Fund that has supported this study and even this gallery and this presentation that we have today. And we want to thank Kenyans that Amboseli is in good hands and it will still benefit the entire country in terms of research, in terms of experiences, in terms of good models and best practices that can be borrowed from Amboseli to other 28 and 29 national parks and reserves, respectively. Asholing, and God bless Kenya. God bless Amboseli as a heritage for Kenya, and God bless the elders, the Kisongo community who have safeguarded Amboseli and the Amboseli ecosystem, including development partners like IFO, Big Wildlife Foundation, Amboseli Ecosystem Trust, the Lion Guardians, and many, many others. We really appreciate you, and we say, Asholing.